Holy cow. First cast. Oh yeah, baby. Woo. 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 We got breakfast, buddy. We got brook trout breakfast. Oh, heck yeah. Whoa, hot, hot, hot. Oh, right off the bones. Mmm. Oh my God. Oh, that is good.
I am James ALOFS. I left the big city to build an off-grid homestead on 40 acres of Canadian wilderness. This area of Ontario has giant ridgelines, deep valleys, and pure rivers. Black bears, gray wolves, mountain lions, moose, and many forest spirits share the land. I started in November 2023. Starting with a modest 12 by 16 foot guest cabin, my goal is to build such a glorious homestead that I attract a magnificent wife, have several military-grade babies, and raise our Swiss mountain dog Clovis. Welcome to Wild Homestead. Whoa! Whoa! Cool. Live long and prosper, buddy. Guys, the darn Starlink unit has been acting up like crazy for the past few months. I have no idea why. So I got a new cable. I'm wondering if I damaged the cable in some way because I was doing a lot of shoveling and, you know, various activities around it through the winter. So we're gonna plug in this new cable and see what happens. Maybe it's just a cable issue, or maybe you need to replace actual the hardware, the Starlink hardware. Hey. Clovis, what are you doing? Oh, yeah. Let's try this bad boy out, man. It says position 25 feet away from human activity. So 25 feet from... Whoa. Well, let's see if it works.
Who?
Catherine.
Oh, it's good to know all those late nights and meaningless sex haven't dulled your senses. Well, I mean, she's not here.
Well, last night.
Hello. Okay. Nope. Watch out. Watch out. Okay, we got all the legs deployed. Just gotta double check. Okay, good. Good. And critically, the wheels are now off the ground, so the pressure is off. All winter, I made sure the wheels were off the ground, so there wasn't pressure on the leaf springs there. So we can take the wheels off if we want to, just get them out of the way and make sure it's harder to steal. We can take this out. There we go. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, yeah. Okay, on video, it looks a lot brighter than it is. There, that's what it kind of looks like. But every time you hear a little zzz, I think it's killing a mosquito. That's pretty cool. We'll see if it works. It claims that it can clear out an acre in size of bugs. I am highly doubtful, but cautiously optimistic. Hey, buddy. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah. So, folks, this is what we're dealing with here. After living through this cabin in the first winter, with our chalet style overhang here, that, there wasn't total snow coverage underneath there, but a lot of times it'd be up to 50% of what the overall snowfall was, the day before, the night before. So I think that is like, this overhang is kind of, it's not enough. And the other factor is now getting into the summertime, is that every time, like, especially with Clovis, right? Every time Clovis and I go in and out of the cabin, you let in, 1 or 2 mosquitoes. And that builds up over the day. And then by the time you get to the night, there's not tons of mosquitoes in there, but it's definitely annoying having to go around and kill all the mosquitoes, before you go to bed. So what I think would be ideal is actually to bring the roof all the way out to the end of where the deck is, and then have it screened in, and actually put up screens that are removable. It's basically you're dealing with 2 months of bugs out of 12 months in a year. So it's really not that bad. But, for those 2 months, being able to sit out and have a covered porch, I think is absolutely a game changer. And having the increased overhang for the winter, so you're not getting all that snow piling right up against the door, and then also getting everything wet in there, I think will be a real game changer. Now, the 2 center posts are fine. Those are lined up perfectly in the center. But the problem is that these side 2 posts, when I was building this deck, I framed up the deck so that it was lined up with the inside edge of our bottom log there, because I attached this is the key, like, side kind of joist. It's connected into the side there on that bottom. So that's how I lined up these posts, and how I squared out this box is lining up to the inside edges of these 2 bottom beams. The problem is that if you see this plumb bob that I've set up coming off the eaves beam above, the plumb bob is slightly off naturally where the inner side of that bottom beam is. So we're going to have to come up with a solution to expand this concrete post so that it can cover these support beams on the outer sides. Because in, the winter time, there could be a lot of snow up there. That's a lot of weight. I think we want concrete directly beneath those beams that are going to be supporting the roof as it comes out. I think it's really critical. So we're going to have to do some augmentation here. Completely surround this existing piling, and I've only gone down 24 inches. And 24 inches gets us into the mineral soil, the compacted mineral soil beneath the organic living layer. I took off the living layer, and luckily also our mineral soil is like pure sand, and it drains so well. So we're kind of blessed by the gods on that one. So I figure if we go down 24 inches, this is going to be sitting on pure sand, and there shouldn't be any heave with that in the winter. I mean, these are down 4.5 feet, you know, which is to code in this area. But if you look at the concrete pier pads that the rest of the cabin, including the cabin extension out back, is on, these concrete pier pads are resting on gravel, which is directly on top of the mineral soil. We've just taken all the organic matter off of there. So however the physics of these are moving, it should be the same as the rest of the cabin. Oh, dudes, I totally forgot we got this beam here still. I don't know what we're gonna do. I'm trying to keep as much of the original deck intact as we upgrade the two sides as possible. We might have to take the whole thing off, but I'm hoping not. We got massive thunderstorms rolled in right now. Hey, buddy. We just gave him some skin, hair, and nails. Liver pills. In a schwallop of organic almond butter. He liked that. Oh, yes, he did. Guys, something very weird, but it means we're gonna have to do less preparatory work, which is also good. This side is different than that side over there. So I originally lined up these posts, right? So that they lined up with the inner edge of that bottom log, because I knew that's where I wanted to kind of build the deck off of. So, you know, these line up perfectly with that, but that means that on this side, these posts are just a little bit in from being underneath the eaves beam, right up here. So that's why we have to expand these beams, you know, outwards with concrete. Over here, these beams, these posts rather, are actually almost perfectly in line with the eaves beam up here. This is pretty dang, you know, plumb, and then it gets here. And this log was a weird log. It like curves in on the end. And what I did inadvertently is instead of keeping the top eaves log lined up with the rest of them beneath, I lined it up with the one directly below. So that's good news for us. You can see it's very close. You guys see this log here. This is the one that did it. It like takes a real curve in here at the end. It's got a bit of a weird, you know, feature there. It's a warbly log. pretty sweet. Oh, vegetables, yuck. Hi ho, hi ho. Off Clovis and I go to conjure up some concrete. Clovis. Hi, buddy. Holy cow! 朋友们，大家好. So guys, we have a big decision here to make on Wild Homestead. Should we get a piece of machinery? If so, what kind of machinery? 4 key questions. The first question is, do we get a piece of machinery or not? There's 1,000 different ways to homestead, right? There's homesteaders out there who just use hand tools, no machines of any kind. There's ones that are heavily mechanized. They have all different kinds of machines and tools. And then there's ones that are kind of hybrids in between. I think, my idol and mentor, if you will, the guy I look up to the most is Sean James from My Self-Reliance. He's been doing this for 10 years and he's in Central Ontario here. And he kind of does a hybrid where, yeah, he doesn't use power tools, but he still has... he's got like a Ram 3500 pickup truck. He's got, I think, a 30 or 35 horsepower Coyote tractor. He's got a sawmill. He's got a Honda side-by-side. He's got a Bombardier Ski-Doo. So he does have a lot of machines that help him. There are channels that don't have any of this stuff, right? Like one of the guys I love is Eric Granqvist, who's building a log cabin at the back of his grandparents' farm in Sweden. And, he's doing it. He chops his trees down with axes and he uses all hand tools on his build. He still does use, a tractor. He used his grandfather's tractor to pull all of his logs over to the build site. And then he also had one of his grandpa's tractors come in to help him lift up his ridge beam, onto his cabin. So even the guys who are using, pure hand tools do sometimes rely on machinery, whether it's their own or a member of their family's piece of machinery. So I think a piece of machinery, it's going to make doing all this work, which can be very dangerous. It's going to make it, for me, it's going to make it safer. It's going to make a lot of this like heavily laborious stuff that's not particularly interesting much faster. So it's going to be more interesting for you guys watching. And it's just going to help us get all these buildings done quicker. So I think it makes a lot of sense at this point, to get a piece of machinery to help us out here. Question number 2 is, what brand should we get of this machinery? So last week I went around to all the local brands who've got dealers. I test drove a lot of them. And kind of towards the end of the week, I actually heard back from one of the brands. I've been contacting all these brands for a long time, trying to get a free piece of machinery from these guys. And I've always been, kind of ghosted, or people saying no, or, not getting back to me. And eventually, a brand called Kubota, which is from Japan, they got back to me, and it wasn't their marketing people. It was the local sales, regional sales people at Kubota Canada. And they said, listen, we can't give you a tractor, but we can give you a wicked deal, essentially giving it to you at our cost, where we're not making any money. But you can save an enormous amount of money by buying through us. So I think Kubota is a no-brainer, getting a great deal on the machinery. And to me, Kubota was like near the top of my list of brands that I would ideally get. So thank you to Kubota Canada for helping us out by giving us a sweet deal. And we're essentially going to be able to get a brand new piece of equipment for the price of a used piece. Number 3 is, what kind of machinery do we get? Because there are tractors, there are skid steers, and there are mini excavators. These are 3 of kind of like the most common types of machines that you see homesteaders use. I know there's people that swear by mini excavators. The arm on that mini excavator is so articulate. It's very accurate. You can pick things up and move them around. You can dig holes with it. There's many different attachments for a mini excavator. Mini excavators are great. The problem with a mini excavator, they're very expensive, right? So if you're looking at, say, like a 60 horsepower tractor, a 60 horsepower tractor brand new might be $50,000. The equivalent mini excavator is going to be $150,000. So a mini excavator is basically way out of our price range. And even if we were able to come up with the money to get one, we wouldn't be able to afford to buy any of the attachments for it, right? The other weakness with a mini excavator, it can't blow snow. And in this area, as you guys know, we get a ton of snow. So that's a major weakness for a mini excavator. Great machines, it's too expensive, it can't blow snow. Option number 2 for machines, skid steers. Skid steers are amazing because very low center of gravity. You can get them on tracks, and they can do pretty much anything. There's tons of attachments for skid steers. The problem with a skid steer, they're very expensive. Like a mini excavator, it's pretty much 3 times the price of the equivalent, sized or powered tractor. A skid steer, the other thing is, at least in Canada, Kubota does not make an excavator or a backhoe attachment for a skid steer. So a skid steer, if we're getting all the attachments from Kubota, right, at cost, you can't dig down with a skid steer. You can blow snow with it, but you can't dig holes, right, like you can with a mini excavator. And with a tractor, the third and final option, you can get a backhoe attachment for a tractor. So a tractor, you can blow snow. There's tons of attachments, wood chippers, stump grinders, you name it. There are weaknesses to tractors. Their center of gravity is higher. They're easier to tip over. They're not as efficient or effective as a mini excavator or a skid steer. We can still, if we get a tractor, we can afford to buy a bunch of different attachments. So that's why we're going with a tractor here, folks. So the final question is, what kind of tractor, what size of tractor to get? I've gotten a ton of advice on get kind of a large compact tractor. Compact tractor, basically tractors up to kind of 60 horsepower. They're the right size. You can operate them in the bush and in the woods. They're not too expensive. There's tons of attachments. Don't get like a 20 or a 30 horsepower tractor. A tractor of that size, it's going to have difficulty lifting big logs. I remember, dealing with these red pines that were at the front of my property. Remember last summer, we were milling up all these big red pine logs at my neighbor's place. My neighbor has 60 horsepower. He could lift those 10-foot long, 20-inch diameter red pine logs, no problem, putting them on and off of his sawmill. My other neighbor, who's got a Mahindra, I believe it's around 30 horsepower, he could not lift those 20-inch diameter logs. He could drag them, but he couldn't lift them. So trying to get a 60 horsepower tractor, I think it makes a lot of sense. So Kubota, they make basically, I think there's two tractors that would be good for us. There's an MX6000 and there's the L6060. They're both 60 horsepower. Here goes the L6060. Foot pedal, forward, reverse. I guess this is basically the throttle. This is up and down on the bucket. This is backward and forward on the PTO, the rear drive. This, I guess, is the speed of this is the height of the PTO. It's pretty much the same as the other one in terms of its layout, but it's got air con. So one of my neighbors who actually does have an open station cab, like the MS6000, is that he related a story where he was doing stuff in the winter and a tree that had snow load on it snapped out, and it snapped down and slammed down onto his hand, and where the throttle was, it maxed out the throttle, and he was shooting towards like a giant, basically a cliff on his property that goes down to a creek, and at the very last second, he was able to slide his hand off of the throttle where the tree had pinned his hand down, and was able to stop the tractor. But he said it was one of the scariest things that's ever happened to him. So he's like, man, if you're doing forestry, he's like, even if you break one of these windows every once in a while, the fact that you've got a full steel cage around you, it could literally save your life if you have that cab. So I have some people saying, don't get a cab if you're doing forestry, because if you get a branch, it's going to break a window. But I'm getting folks who are saying if you do have this cab, there's actually more protection for you. It could save your life. The other thing is Kubota is throwing in an insurance policy here for me where it's only a $250 deductible and they will fix anything, no questions asked. So $250 is still, it's not cheap, but really, I mean, if you break, say, one panel a year, that's not that big of a deal considering how much more safe, you know, having this this steel cage around you is. It's just, you know, it's an interesting thought. So what do you guys think? I mean, the tractor, the L6060 and the MX6000, they're basically the same amount of power in terms of horsepower. The L6060, it's obviously got the cab, so this one's about 10 or 15% more expensive than the MX6000. But again, because Kubota Canada is giving us a sweet deal, selling it to us basically at cost, it's not that bad of a difference. So it's an interesting question. The other thing about this one is that the PTO, so the drive at the back of this tractor, is about a third more powerful than the MX6000, is what they're telling me for some reason. I don't know why that is. So the implements that you can run off the back of this, the backhoe, a forestry mulcher, whatever, wood chipper, whatever it happens to be, you're gonna have more juice to do that. So it's a tough call, man. It's a really tough call. What do you guys think? The MX6000 or the L6060 with the cab? Look at that. Thor's red oak is booming. Booming, man. He's over 6 feet tall. Heck yeah. Oh, yeah. Then we got this other guy here. He's coming in nice. It's gonna be hard not to hit him though with the car. Then you see this guy here. They're struggling, man. I don't know why. It's so weird. I don't know, like... Whoa! That is a single birch tree. That is nuts! Holy cow. So this is the edge where it drops down towards the river floodplain over here. But we can walk all the way along this ridge back towards the cabin. And the trail camera is somewhere along here where we got that big cool wolf. Et voila. Guys, this is King Henry V. What is going on? I mean, since I trimmed down all these trees, you got more buds coming out here, but is this just a lack of water? Like the two oak trees over there, Thor's red oak and the unnamed small one, are thriving. And then this guy and the oak over here, like most of the leaves are kind of curled up. So you can see the pieces of rebar. There's one over there, but that's the top of the column. Orange. Oh. Well, guys, I think it's looking pretty good. That's pretty solid. It's been about 48 hours. I don't know if we don't want to put any, weight on top of this yet, but missed a little spot here. You see on the back where the original column was. Didn't quite seep back there, but got down everywhere else. And this one looks good. This one, the form was, I think, too close to the pillar on the back, so it didn't quite get enough coverage. Most of this is the first one we poured. I was pouring with 3 1/4 liters. Most of that was 3 1/2. So maybe I should have done this one a little bit runnier, but it seems really solid. So, especially being anchored to those existing pillars. Don't lick my face, man. What are you doing? Watch out. Hey. My Nigel Farage, ladies and gentlemen, finally got these things square. That was quite the conundrum, like squaring these up while maintaining the perfect centralization of those two plumb bobs. That was quite tricky, I must say. I probably spun my wheels here for about, at least an hour trying to get this figured out. Okay, good boy, good boy. snug. So this one is snug as a bug. We're all good. We're all good there. But this one, there's some little undulation in the concrete that's not allowing it to seal down. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a fully operational screened porch foundation here, ready for the roof extension and everything. I can't tell you how worthwhile it was to get the cement mixer to do these two massive pilings over here. It's such a high quality mix. It's so solid and smooth. I'm really, really glad that I did that. Anytime I'm doing foundation stuff with concrete in the future, I think I'm definitely going to rent that cement mixer. It's only $40 for an entire day. But the next steps next week, we have to do 5 vertical posts. 1 there, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then up here, we're going to have 1 horizontal beam, 2 horizontal beam, and then from this point over here, 3, 4, and then the final one will be the extended ridge beam coming up on top. So for the 5 vertical posts that we're doing, we can do them on the sawmill. They'll be the first lumber that we mill up ourselves on the sawmill, because the magical thing about green wood, when you mill it, it shrinks, 6 to 8% width-wise, diameter-wise, but it essentially does not shrink at all lengthwise. So that's why we can use those green wood posts right away. This is going to be quite interesting, guys, because the cabin's going to be going from 12 by 16, adding another 10 feet on the front. That's 12 by 26. And then we're adding another 10 feet on the back to the extension for the shower and the bathroom. That's going to be 36 feet long. That's pretty crazy, man. And I can't tell you how nice it's going to be to have a screened in porch. So that's what we're hitting next week. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, guys, let me know what you think about the L6060 tractor with the cab versus the MX6000 tractor with no cab. If we get the one with the cab, we can probably do 3 or 4 additional attachments. And if we get the one without the cab, the MX6000, we can probably take 4 or 5 attachments. So that's the difference there. But that's really going to up our productivity here on the homestead, finally having a tractor. Shout out to Kubota Canada for helping us out with that. And you guys, we will see you next week here on the Wild Homestead. May the gods bless you, both the old gods and the new. Strength and honor to you all. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been married 9 times like I have, don't ever give up. If you see a cute girl in your local Starbucks, you should still go up to her, because the 10th time's the charm. Just go up to her and say, "Excuse me, madam, I think you're gorgeous. And my phone number, please write it down, is 1-800-OOGA-BOOGA."